and welcome to the first of what will probably be quite a fair few tutorials on how to create a weapon in 3D Studio Max and animate it, texture it, and get it into probably Counter-Strike Source. Been doing a little bit of research into what weapon we're going to do, and I thought maybe a Glock because it's quite simple. Yeah, it's quite a nice little gun. I didn't want to do anything that was too complicated because it would take forever to do, and want to try and keep these tutorials as small as possible. So let's jump right in. I've got done a bit of research, like I said, and got a nice lot of reference pictures. Lots of different angles of the gun, different areas that will need to be modelled. But of course you want a nice image which you're going to use in 3D Max as your background image. And this is the one I found. What I'm first going to do is slightly darken it up a little bit, because these white areas, when they're in max, you can't really see the wireframe over the top of them, and it can be quite hard to see where your geometry is in comparison to your reference picture. So what I'm going to do is just stick it in Photoshop and just adjustments, brightness and contrast, and just minus 30, minus 40, minus 30, okay. I'm just going to save. Okay, right, so it's time to start setting up Max. First thing we're going to do is just create a plane for our reference image to go on. And what I'm going to do is resize this plane to be the same size as our image. So if we have a look, it's 579 by 316. 579 and 316. I'm just going to pull this back in our viewport. Just press M to get up the material editor, and you can just drag and drop your image onto there. And then you want to make sure that this little button here is ticked, which is show map in viewport, and then you can just click on this little button which will apply the map to our geometry. There we go. The next thing we want to do is we want to go properties, or right click in properties on this object, and we want to turn off show frozen in grey, because we want to freeze this object so we can't select it, but we also want to be able to see what's actually on the plane. If it's on show frozen in grey, it will blank out the texture, and we don't want that. So you just want to right click and freeze section, so now we can't actually select it. The next thing we want to do is just create a simple material which we're going to apply to our model. What I like to do is create a nice animated material, two-frame material. So the first thing I'm going to do is just click on this little button down here, which is our time configuration. Just put end time on 1. If you press the full stop and comma buttons, I think it is, you can go through your frames. So I use those quite a lot. Question marks always already play animation, but don't really need that at the moment. What we're going to do is, I like to work in a blue. I have no idea why, but I do. Sort of a desaturated blue. I think it's works well against the grey background of Max. I guess that's my only excuse. I'm not even that much of a fan of blue, but who cares? So what I'm just going to do is create a box just to show you how this is going to work. What we're going to do is right click on the perspective up here, and we're going to put on edge faces, and I'm also going to work in faces because the smoothing groups annoys me. Also, I like to keep all my geometry in black, and I'll show you why in a second once I've applied my material. If I drag and drop my material on there, deselect, you can see that the wireframe comes up in black, or the edged faces. And again, I think it goes quite nice with the blue, sort of stands out quite well. It's not quite the right blue. Okay, and so we're going to animate this material. What we want is on frame at 0, we have it as a solid colour. And then on frame 1 we want to put down the opacity. So I'm going to just select auto key, put it on frame 1, and I'm just going to select the opacity and put that down to 30. Hit OK. And lastly we want to put the transparency on best, because otherwise you get that funny transparency going on there. So now as you can see through, and you can see your model, I'm just going to put these also on faces. Transparency best. Face, and transparency best. Just going to go through and do that on all of them. Lastly we've also got to put on the edge faces. Right, what we're going to do probably quite a bit of work in this left viewport. So what I'm going to do is just press G and get rid of the grid. Right, so there we go. If I select, I'm just going to put you on edit poly. Press number 1 to select vertices, and they will come up, and you can see how you can actually see your reference image underneath, and can follow it along with your vertices, etc. And then go back a frame, and it's a solid colour, so you can get a better sense of this, your form that you're actually creating. The last little thing that I'm going to do for this tutorial is just to show you the increment save. Basically, increment save stops 3D Max from saving over the same file over and over again when you save your work. So normally when you do Control S, it'll just save directly over your work, which can be a pain in the arse, especially when you you make an error in your work. Try and go back to it, but you can't because you've saved over it, an earlier version. So what I'm going to do is just save this out. File save as. I'll go put this in tutorials, tutorial, new folder, weapon, Glock. That would do. So what we want to do is go customize preferences, and then under the files tab you have just here you've got an option to increment save. You want that ticked on. Default it's off, but you want it on. Auto backs, make sure that's on 3, and make sure you enable it. That's really handy for when it crashes and you've got a auto back to go to. So okay, what you'll notice is when I do Control S to save, I get Glock 1, Control S again, Glock 2, Control S again, Glock 3, etc, etc, etc. And obviously when you end up with loads you can just go through and delete them. Obviously it takes up a bit more file space, but in the long run it's very handy. So what we've done is we've created our background image, and we've also created a material which we're going to apply to our model while we're modelling it. And I think that's it for this tutorial. The next one will start on some modelling. Good luck.